Okay, welcome to a new episode of Off the Bench with RGT. I've got a very, very special guest on the show today. It's Tushar. It's his debut on the podcast, and we will be discussing FPL. We will review Game Week 4 and look forward to Game Week 5 and beyond. But before that, Tushar, how do you feel to be on the show?
I feel great. I love talking about, FPL. I watch the Premier League religiously every weekend. And it's good to exchange ideas. It's good to understand everyone's strategy and kind of see where everyone's going. So really excited and looking forward to this.
So let's begin with reviewing Game Week 4. Tushar, talk to me about how Game Week 4 went for you and your team.
So Game Week 4 was, I would say it was quite average. I think a couple of changes that Pep Guardiola made affected my team. Guardiola did not start. Doku didn't start. Doku didn't play actually. So I think that affected my team a little bit. Other than that, in terms of my transfers that I made obviously I didn't have Haaland since the beginning of the season, so I had to make sure that I brought him in. I brought in Adama because he seemed to be having a good season so far, and West Ham seemed like a decent competitor to kind of put him against, and then Rodgers as well. So I think overall it was a decent game week, but kind of sets me up well for the future. How about you? What changes are you thinking of?
Yeah, man, I've fortunately had a decent week so far. I'm on 69 before bonuses get added. And the reason I've kind of shot up this week is because I took a last minute gamble with Ollie Watkins. I know there was a lot of rumor about him not starting because Duran scored like in the last two matches, etc. But I saw him playing against Everton at home, and I just backed him because I knew he would eventually come good, right? I had Havertz 1 week before that, but I thought I'd sell him and get Watkins in, and I got Watkins in and he scored 2 goals. So he got 10 points for that and 3 bonus points. So that kind of worked well for me. But otherwise, I mean, Haaland was being Haaland again, scored 2 goals. He was my, he was my captain. I mean, my defenders didn't really return much because Van Dijk had a clean sheet wipe off. Robinson from Fulham also didn't do that well. But I feel like my midfield and strikers kind of helped me reach 69-point mark. But having said that, I mean, how glad do you feel to get Haaland in your team finally, Tushar, after not having him for the first 3 game weeks?
It definitely puts the person to a little bit of ease. But I didn't captain him because I wasn't sure if he was going to start based on some news that I heard last minute.
Yeah.
But obviously he did end up starting, and he did end up getting a brace. Not a hat trick, but yeah, it still feels good to have him on my team because it definitely gives you that sense of security.
Fair.
In terms of not falling too far behind.
Okay, so Tushar, I mean, just in general, who are the players and teams that stood out for you in Game Week 4?
Well, obviously one of the biggest upsets, Nottingham-Liverpool. So Nottingham really did stand out for me. Morgan Gibbs-White is playing really well. Anthony Elanga as well did fairly decent across the game.
Yeah.
So I think the second one that stood out for me was obviously City. Even though they were down 1-0 in the first minute, they came back and kind of won the game 2-1. So I think those two really stood out. And another person who I do want to mention, and I kind of really wanted him on my team for this week, was Amad Diallo. But just because Ten Hag didn't start him last week, I wasn't too sure if he would start this week as well, which is why I kind of went safer and went Adama. But I think Amad Diallo would have been a great pick to have.
Fair, man. Honestly, with United, I guess Rashford, Garnacho, Amad, you don't know which two will start every week. But I feel like that right wing spot, Amad is kind of making it his own. So he will be a good punt at 5 million. I think that's a good buy. But honestly, I feel the one team, or rather the 2 teams that stood out for me this weekend. Number 1 is Aston Villa. I think 2-0 down at halftime against Everton. Everton plays such a low block, right? Sean Dyche's tactics are just defense, defense, defense. So to come back 3-2, John Duran again, crazy wonder strike against Everton. And then Ollie Watkins finally breaking that jinx of not scoring this season with a brace. He could have had a hat-trick as well, but he was unfortunate not to score that third goal. And honestly, when I played my wild card in Game Week 3, I remember mentioning to a friend that, you know, Arsenal defensive assets are a must no matter who they play. And that showed when they played Spurs. Their tactics were very different, defensive, solid blocks. And I think Gabriel Saliba, David Raya, Timber as well, they were fantastic. And I feel owning Arsenal assets going forward throughout the season, no matter who they play, is an absolute must. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree with you on that. Even Ben White, for that matter, not only for his defensive input into the game, but also how good he is offensively. A lot of crosses that he kind of made today, they could have been dangerous if they found the right people in the box. And just I feel like he's the second person who the team can kind of turn to in terms of offense on the right side.
Okay, going forward, Tushar, Game Week 5 and beyond, I know a lot of people are considering wildcarding between the Game Week 5 and Game Week 7 window because there's a fixture swing for some of the teams, etc. What are your plans? Who are you looking at? Do you have some target players, target teams, etc.?
Yeah, well, I think over the next couple of weeks I do have some target players. For this coming week specifically, I think I'm going to hold my transfers and not really make any changes, just because I think I would like to see what Doku does against Arsenal, considering the fact that he didn't play this past weekend. I want to say that Pep Guardiola wants to keep him for the Arsenal game, so I would like to see how that goes. And then, but another person who I do want to keep in my team, like I mentioned, was Amad Diallo, and I need to have an Arsenal defender in my squad as well. So, trying to see if I can make some changes and get either a Ben White or a Gabriel on my team. How about you? What kind of changes are you considering?
Yeah, man, fair. I honestly, when I again played my wildcard a couple of weeks back, I thought Nedeljkovic from Aston Villa would start for their, because Matty Cash got injured, so I thought he would start and I would be able to triple up with Watkins, Morgan Rogers and Nedeljkovic, so I had one in each area of the pitch. But that didn't work out, so I'm looking at getting in Ezri Konsa. I feel he's one nailed-on defender for Aston Villa, whether he plays at right back, centre back, etc. Because Aston Villa have good fixtures as well. I'm very, very tempted to get in a United asset because Garnacho and Ahmad are so decently priced as well. So I feel like they can always kind of give me returns. But I'm trying to go against my wish and have no United assets in my squad. I feel like they might continue to win matches in reality if I don't kind of own them. So that's my thinking behind it, because I had Garnacho and Ahmad both for Game Week 2 and 3 and we ended up losing both those games. So it's just something psychological, but I think having the likes of Ahmad, Garnacho might be handful going forward. And Arsenal for sure. I have 2 Arsenal players already. I'm very, very highly considering getting a third Arsenal asset as well.
Yeah, I would agree with that too. Arsenal has been really good, and I think tripling up on them is really not a bad idea.
Yeah. Any plans of wildcarding soon though, Tushar? Or no?
I would like to hold my wild card until after the Tottenham and City game, if I'm not wrong. I think I'd like to hold my wild card for a couple of weeks, and then, as you mentioned, Aston Villa has some pretty good fixtures coming up. I think Manchester City will have some easier fixtures coming up, and I think we'll kind of start understanding how Pep Guardiola is rotating his players and his plans for Champions League as well. So I think all of those factors combined will give me a good
Yeah.
idea of who I want to bring in 2 or 3 weeks from now.
Fair, fair. Great, Tushar. Lovely having you today. I look forward to having you back discussing FPL a couple of more times throughout the season. Hope you enjoyed it.
Absolutely, I really did. I really enjoyed this discussion as well. Like I said, love watching football, love playing FPL. So it's something I'm happy to do for sure.